What's your birth date?
May 27th, 18, 5/27/18.
100 years old, you look spectacular.
Oh, he was a lumberjack. Bleking, Sweden. 1922, they bought the farm out in Sugar Grove, Pennsylvania. And he started farming. It was a living farm.
Okay.
We just lived off the land, and we hunted for our meat, and if we didn't hunt, we didn't eat.
Where did you go to school then, Elmer?
Lander, Pennsylvania. No, we moved to Jamestown, let's see, when I was in the 4th grade. Then I finished school here.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
Pearl Harbor? Oh, sure.
What do you remember about that day?
Other than it was a terrible thing, and everything, and all the people died and got killed, and I don't know, it was just a bad day. I was glad the way we retaliated, and I was drafted. I wanted to be drafted because I wanted to enlist for the duration of the war. They wouldn't let me. I enlisted for 4 years, and I said, I don't want to be in there. If the war's over in a year, what am I going to do in there? I said, well, then I'm going to have to wait yet unless you draft me. Yep.
Where did you go for basic training?
Sampson. It was kind of different because most of the guys that I was with seemed to be like city people. They weren't very, should I say, they couldn't do a lot of things. They couldn't do the calisthenics very good, you know. They were dumb on that and low, way low. And I went through like I got nothing to do, you know, because I'd been working on the farm all the time. From Sampson, we went to Rhode Island. I think it was Lido Beach. Well, we trained mostly on that for gunnery practice. I had that for 6 weeks at Sampson. I also had a 5-inch that came in 3 pieces that you laid in a trough on the gun, just one at a time. Yeah, but the 3-inch was all one shell.
In the United States Navy's arsenal of modern weapons, this new 3-inch 50 caliber rapid-fire anti-aircraft rifle in single or twin mount.
Oh, there was 5 or 6 guys in the line from the where they had them stored, and they passed them one by one up to the loader. These guys couldn't do very much. Well, up to the first loader, it was kind of a tricky thing because you lay this shell down. It was this long in this trough-like thing. Then you had to put your heel of your hand on here and give it a good shove right in. Well, when the breech block tripped it and it came up, your hand flew up like this, you know. And if it didn't, you lost your fingers.
Oh, golly.
That's how fast it happened.
Right.
And nobody even wanted to do it, let alone. So I wound up at it. I could do it all right, didn't bother me any. So I became the first loader on the 3-inch gun. I went from there down to, what's the name of the places? Right across the river from New Orleans.
Okay, right.
Algiers. I went from there down to, what's the name of the places? Right across the river from New Orleans.
Okay, right.
Algiers. Our ship was being rebuilt there. It was a converted Liberty ship.
Do you remember the name of the boat?
Acubans. I was assigned to the deck force because I didn't want to go down below. Well, what happened, I always done machine work, see, so I wanted to go in the machine room. But once I got to know a little bit about it and about the ship and the torpedoes and everything else that happened there, why say when the sub's torpedo was shipped, they usually hit right in the crew's quarters. That takes out most of the crew.
Right.
So I didn't want to go down there, so I just stayed on the deck force.
Did other people sleep up deck or?
No, I was the only one.
Really?
I was the only one. I slept underneath the 3-inch gun tub. It was a circular thing about 10, 12 feet. It was as far off the deck, I suppose.
Right.
Well, I slung a hammock under that. And then that's where I slept.
I see you got the rank of boatswain mate second class, right?
Yeah. When we first went aboard ship, they had us all lined up on the deck, and they had an old guy there, he was probably 60, and I was 20 and something, and I thought he was old, but actually now I think he was young.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was sitting on the hatch there one day, and he came up and sat down, and he said, "Carlson," he said, "I got a job for you." He was the one that giving out the jobs for each one, I'm going to put you in the boatswain locker, up in the bow of the ship, right in the bow. That's where they kept all the rigging and everything. He says, "I'm going to teach you all the knots and all the fancy work and all this stuff, that goes on." Okay. So that was, my job was in the boatswain locker.
Did you feel ever in harm's way? Did you find yourself where you were concerned about submarines or anything like that?
I never worried about it. Always worried about getting seasick. And man, I was sick before we got aboard ship. We had a hurricane out there. We had 170-mile wind and 40-foot waves. It lasted 4 days. And we were within 2 degrees of capsizing. There were two ships that sank behind us, but we couldn't help them. And so anyway, when the sky finally opened up so they could get a bearing, they found out we were lost for 2 days. We were 2 days off course. So we had to come back to the Panama Canal and go through that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how we got to the Pacific.
You're going up and down and up and down.
Well,
how do you secure yourself?
You have to go with it.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're going to fall over.
How do you sleep? Or don't you?
If you're standing up and the floor goes away from you, you're going to lean back, right? If it goes the other way, you're going to lean this way. Otherwise, you're going to stay upright no matter which way the floor goes.
Ah, sure. Where was your destination?
New Guinea was our home base. It was a supply ship,
Okay.
mostly. And we went in on invasions and carried supplies, ammunition, and anything the guy needed to go aboard, and all that. And then what we were supposed to do was unload and get out, but we never got out, So we were in there all the time.
In New Guinea?
Yeah. I wasn't worried about the drowning or sinking or anything. I was thinking about staying alive. And we had what they call, it was like a duffel bag that had everything in it you needed to survive if you had to on your own. Well, I took this duffel bag that I had and I tied it onto a raft. And I thought about putting it on a lifeboat. And I asked the lifeboat and wouldn't stay up in 5 minutes out there, So I said, I'm going to put it on a raft.
Wow.
That'll stay up better. So I tied it on there, and they were held on with a line that had a loop in it and a marlin spike. You know what that is, a marlin spike?
No, tell me.
It's a long tapered pin, some It's long. They have shorter ones too. They're sharp on one end, and you use them for untying the lines.
Right.
You know, you get the point started in, and you hit it like that
Right.
to loosen up the lines. And anyway, I tied this bag on there, and every once in a while I go check the line, you know, see, because the wetter it got, the tighter it got. So I had to check it all the time. Sometimes you couldn't get it loose; it really got wet, you know.
Right.
So I checked that all the time and make sure I could get it loose. But I was the only one in the whole ship that did that.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
Christmas 1944.
Oh, in Lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that where that was, in Leyte?
Lady, yeah, the Japs came over and bombed the heck of a. We were anchored in the harbor in Lady, and see the guys in the ships were not allowed to fire their guns on a kind of a crossfiring. You know, everybody would be shooting at everybody else.
Right.
So all the shooting that was all done by the base. All the base guns.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the jet plane get hit, and they had the smoke poured around him all over. And I said, "There's one coming in." Well, it started coming right for us, you know. And I was standing on the bow of the ship, and I thought he was going to hit us. And I got over by the rail, and I said, "I'm just going to wait till I'm sure he's going to hit, and I'm going to jump overboard," you know. So. But he didn't. He didn't hit us. He went right awful close to us, and he hit a destroyer beside us on the other side of us.
What was your reaction when you saw all that happening?
I think a lot of people got killed.
Did anybody on your ship? Anybody lose their life on your ship? No.
Not a one. Not a one. I think that ship was blessed. There were 97 ships in the convoy that went into Leyte on that invasion that I was telling you about.
Right.
In a convoy. And they had these DE escorts that were smaller, but 360 feet long. And they run around there. They were fast and very maneuverable. And they were going in between the ships. They were sounding down below for subs. And then they found a couple of subs, and they threw a bunch of garbage cans over the back end of them, and then they see oil coming up from the bottom. So that was the end of the subs. They go up the anchor chain, you know, and right where I was sleeping, not any farther from here than the wall where I slept. And I always had a knife in my hand. I slept with a knife in my hand under my pillow. Always did that.
Yeah.
Just because I would, if anybody knew I was there, they'd probably get me the first one. I was ready for them. And it's funny the instincts that you develop under those conditions. Back on the fantail, I had a dog back there, and if that dog woke up at night and walked, I could hear his toenails scratch the deck. That was almost 500 feet away. He would wake me up. That's how you sleep. You think you're asleep, but you're awake. You know, you're alert all the time.
Was there ever a time when the Japanese actually came onto your ship?
No. No.
But you'd heard about it.
Yeah, they were doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They would get out in the quarters when the guys were sleeping, you know, and kill them. Anyway, I had a quarterdeck watch one night. And the guy that stands at the top of the ladder, you have to check everybody that comes aboard. And this was about 4 o'clock in the morning. And I saw a guy down there trying to get up the gangplank, and the tide was in, so it was kind of steep. So he tried 2 or 3 times, and he couldn't make it. And I was afraid he was gonna was going to fall over, but there was a line to hang on to, but he wasn't very good. So I said, I better get down and help him. So I went down and I helped him up the gangplank, and he was an officer, up to the quarters, and I took his shoes off and put them in bed, and I went back and I duties, So I didn't think anything about it. I never mentioned that to anybody that I did that. Quite a while later, I had liberty in a place called Ilu, and I think I got a hold of some poison whiskey because I'd only had 2 drinks, and I got sicker than a dog, see. Up the river in a small boat, and when I went to go home, I remember walking down to the boat there. I get in it, I got in it, and that's the last I remembered. I just got in it. Well, anyway, they brought me aboard ship in a cargo net. So I woke up in the morning, and first thing I thought of, I was in the back room in this bar that I was in. And I looked to my side, and there was a pharmacist mate sitting beside me. And I said, his name was Rising. And I said, Rising, what are you doing here? He said, how do you feel? All right. Says, can you get up? Oh, sure. I lifted my head about this much. I thought somebody hit it with a sledgehammer.
Oh, gosh.
Jeez. So he got up and he came in with a glass of this big. It was about 2/3 of something. It looked like milk, but it wasn't milk. He said, can you drink this? Yeah, I can drink it, yeah. Well, I took about 1 swallow of it, and I had to go heave that up. And I just got in there, and I got that up, and he stood there with another one. He said, here, drink this one. So I did a little better with that one. I drank a little more, but anyway, that heaved up, and the 3rd one heaved up. And then on the 4th one, I kind of stayed down. And that fixed me.
There you go, perfect.
Whatever was in that stuff, I don't know. In New Guinea, 2 guys came aboard one day, and they wanted to know if anyone wanted to go wild boar hunting. This was 2 weeks after the war was over. Yeah. And I said, I'd like to go. So we went. There was 6 of us that went, and these 2 guides were supposed to be our guides, So we went into the jungle and we was hunting wild boar. All of a sudden there was a shot, and our guide said, take cover. Well, I was walking right alongside of a creek that was about probably 4 feet down to it, and it was dry. There were big boulders in there like this, rolling with a lot of them, and so I jumped into that. It lasted for probably 15, 20 minutes, and then it was quiet.
The Japanese have accepted our terms fully. That's the word we've just received from the White House in Washington. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the Second World War.
Yeah, we found out aboard ship. That's where they got a message, Had communication all the time.
Was there celebration? Was there anything that went on?
Oh, no, everything was quiet. Everything was quiet. We got to a place where they had war guys got off and gathered to go back to the States, And so I got off there, and I was there a couple of weeks, I think, and then I got on the Bunker Hill, aircraft carrier Bunker Hill. I was there a couple of weeks, I think, and then I got on the Bunker Hill, aircraft carrier Bunker Hill. Well, that was another waiting place, so I was there 4 days. And each day we had to get on and check the bulletin board, see if our name was on there. For some guys went by train and some went by plane to Long Island. And I went down there, I think it was on the 3rd day I went down, saw my name on the board, and I was going to fly. I thought, that's good, So I flew to Long Island. I was discharged at Lido Beach, I think it was Long Island. I never forgot motorcycles since I was 10 years old, you know. And money was tight and everything, and I really wanted a motorcycle. So I got a deal with a guy that I could get the dealership if I would take 2 machines, and I could pay for them when I sold them. See, so that's a good deal. I get a bike to ride. Mm-hmm. So that's how I got started in a motorcycle.
My golly.
Then the Japanese, Suzuki, they came and seen me, and they wanted me to take those on. Well, I only had 3 bikes at that time, so they were just small ones. So I said, okay. I had it here in the house.
No kidding.
Yeah. And I did it nights and weekends, and I was doing all right with them, you know. So.
What is your favorite of all the motorcycles you've ridden?
Well, it depends on what you want to, what kind of riding you want to do. If you want to go touring, like a cross country or stuff like that, there's actually only 2, BMW or Honda. They both make a 6-cylinder motorcycle. It weighs around 700 pounds. It's a big machine. It's smooth and everything, but it rides just like a car. Or if you're the kind of guy that likes to drive in the dirt, in the woods and stuff, you know, they got those too. I was really young. I started when I was 10 years old, and yeah, we used to have TT races, and because I could never afford 2 bikes, you know, one to ride and one to race, I used to go to the track early. I'd strip the back fender off from it and everything, and I had an old gas tank I'd put on it, and I would ride that in the races. And then when the race was over, I'd take all the stuff off again. Well, it was a good feeling. It just meant the war was over, you know. I could go back home. And at first I was happy about it, but after I got home, it was awful hard to come home. I had a lot more trouble coming home than I did going in. Yeah. You know.
Why do you think that is?
Your thoughts would shift from here to there, back and forth, you know. It didn't bother me so much if I kept busy. The busier I got, the less I thought about it. But I had some trouble with my nerves. And I used to go to Dr. Dispenza. He was a doctor down on 4th Street. And he'd always give me some medicine, you know, that would last for a month or 2, and yeah. So I did that for a few years. But you never really get over it, I don't think.
Well, you're amazing. I'm so thrilled to get a chance to meet you, and I salute you and thank you for your time and service.
Thank you.